everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thanks so much for joining me again today. This is the second in a two-part series where I'm making a baby quilt for my dear friend. And I know it's not really a traditional baby quilt at all, but their theme is safari, and so I think it's going to be great. This is part 2 of the series in which I'm going to finish off this whole quilt. In part 1, I did the planning and cutting and sewing of the quilt face, and I gave lots of ways that you can customize it to make it bigger, smaller, more traditional baby, but just by using different fabrics. With the sashing or without, if you wanted to keep it simpler, if you're a beginner, that totally works. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it here and I'll also put it in the description below. So watch that video first and then come right back to this one, okay? Also in the description box, as always, there's a link that you can click to subscribe to my channel, which I really appreciate. And also while you're doing that, just go ahead and give me a thumbs up because that keeps me going. Thanks so much. So now let's jump right in and get this quilt finished. So for the back, I bought more of that sunny yellow. But my quilt is going to be 50 inches square or 1.3 meters square, and quilting cottons come 45 inches wide. So it's not quite wide enough. So I had to buy twice the length of my quilt plus a bit of extra. So I bought 3 yards or 2.7 meters. So now what we have here is I've washed it and dried it. And so we have a long, skinny rectangle, and we need to turn that rectangle into a shorter and wider rectangle. I've got the whole thing folded in half, and right at the folded edge, at that halfway mark, I'm gonna snip and tear. So I'm just snipping right in there and tearing straight across. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you know I love snipping and tearing. It just tears right between 2 yarns. It works perfectly and gives you a nice straight edge super fast. Now, with that torn into 2 pieces, now I'm going to put the 2 selvage edges together. And if you watch my other videos, you know that I don't usually like to use the selvage because it is woven more tightly and can make your seam look puckery. But for a job like this, if you tear off the selvages, sometimes you end up sewing the wrong 2 edges together and you end up right back with that long skinny rectangle. So just so I don't mess myself up, I'm going to keep the selvage on. I'm going to sew the 2 selvages together, right sides together, and press that seam open. Then we'll be ready to start layering the quilt. So this is actually going to be done pretty quick. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I'm going to come along at the 15 line or 5/8 line with my right sides together and go all the way down the selvage. I'm pressing that seam open and flat. I think I better iron the whole piece because look how much nicer it looks once it's ironed. Cotton setting and lots of steam. So the backing is all ready. First I need to attach the batting to the quilt face. So I have my table protector here, and this is the warm and natural batting. And then the quilt face goes on top. I don't need to have any extra sticking out as long as it's making it all the way around. I'm okay. And I'm going to pin all the way around, and then I'm going to sew a zigzag stitch all the way around the quilt face. Okay, I'm using a regular zigzag. that is 3 millimeters by 3 millimeters, and I'm going to be sewing right on the edge so that my needle goes on the fabric and off the fabric and on the fabric and off the fabric. Now that my zigzag is done all the way around, I'm just going to trim off the extra batting all the way around. Even where the quilt face came close to the edge of the batting, I still want to trim off any bits that stick out. It should just be right even with the black inner border all the way. So the table protector is back on the table, and I'm going to lay out the backing with the wrong side up. So I'm looking for that seam, and you'll notice that the backing is way bigger than I need in the length now, but I still needed that much fabric to be able to get the width to be that 50 inches or 1.3 meters. Don't let little threads get trapped in between the layers, because those will always shadow through. With that nice and smooth and the seam side up and the little thread gone, then I'm going to put the quilt face down, right side up. And I'm going to try to put this middle row of sashing right on top of the seam. Okay, everything nice and smooth, and then I'm going to pin around again. I want to make sure on the sides that I have at least 1 inch of extra. I don't want to get too close. I'm going to be cutting this down to being exactly 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters of extra all the way around. I'm using matching thread because this stitch is going to end up showing on the back of the finished quilt. So matching thread here, especially in your bobbin, is important. And then straight stitch right along top of that zigzag. So I've got my see-through ruler. It's a 2-inch wide ruler. I'm going to place this middle line right along the edge of my quilt face and draw with wax or chalk all the way around. If you don't have a ruler like this, you'll just have to measure 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch and connect your dots. Now, you cannot snip and tear this because it'll never follow exactly parallel to this quilt. This quilt is going to wobble here and there, and so we want to follow this shape exactly. So now at the iron, I'm going to be turning this edge just to meet the edge of the quilt face and press that down. Cotton setting, lots of steam. And then I'm going to turn a second time. Good, so this side is done, but I'm going to unroll it so that I can do the second side. So as you can see, we're going to be using the backing to come around and make that outside border, and that's going to be beautiful. Now you can sew this straight and then sew this straight, tucking in your corners nicely. That's probably the easiest way to do it, but I want to show you how, if you wanted to bevel your corners, which I think is even nicer. Okay, so to bevel, I'm going to be folding the quilt right side out on the angle, bringing these edges together. Okay, so I've got it folded right on that angle, wrong sides together. And now where I want to sew is right from that point, perpendicular to this line, from that point just to this fold. So from this point, I want to be sewing from there, perpendicular to that fold, and just to this fold. So that's where I'm going to sew, right? I don't want to come past this fold, and I'm going to do that to all four corners. Good. So my point's going in. I want this fold to be going straight across the machine. So I know I'm perpendicular, and just going to sew right to that fold with back tacks at beginning and end. And then I'm going to trim off extra fabric there, just leaving like about a 1/4 inch. Okay, so now I can, with my fingers, open that right out, flip that nice and pointy there. You can even take closed up scissors, definitely not open scissors because it'll poke out through, but closed up scissors can help you poke that out nice and pointy. And then this tucks in, and there's your beautiful beveled corner. Isn't that nice? Perfect. Now I'll just be pinning these edges down all the way around, and then I'm just going to be sewing nice and close to this edge. And then we are done everything except the actual quilting. It's pinned all around, and now I'm going to start right there, tiny back tack because I don't want it to show, and be following that edge. Finally ready for the actual quilting. So right now what we have here is a patchwork blanket. It's not a quilt until we quilt it, and quilting means we're going to be sewing through all the layers. Now some people send their quilts out to get quilted professionally in like an interesting design. Some people quilt by hand. I'm going to take a route somewhere in between those, and I have two options that I like to do. One is to sew from corner to corner on all the squares in both directions, and that makes a nice design. And I'm tempted to do that, or stitching in the ditch, stitching right in all of those seams. I'm tempted to do corner to corner, except that I have imperfections in my corners. So is that gonna work? Yes, I think that'll be okay. Because I'm sewing corner to corner, I don't want any pins right in the middle of a square. I know I'm not gonna be sewing at those edges, so that's where I'm gonna put my pins. I'm using safety pins, big safety pins, not at the center of a square. So maybe I'd be okay the center of the sashing. So I'm coming up to the top of this corner here. I don't want to sew on the black at all because that would really show. So I'm carefully sinking my needle down there and then a tiny back tack. Good. Now, whatever I hold right in front of the needle is where I'm going to go. So right at this small square, I can see clearly that I'm going to be going right to that corner. And the bigger corners are just a tiny bit trickier just because you've got a longer distance to travel. So I'm picking it up here right at that corner, and that's what I'm going to hold directly in front of the needle. And whatever's right in front of the needle is where you're going to go. Now remember, the bias has stretch, so I don't want to stretch it as I'm holding it there, but I do want to just aim right there. Good. Now here's one of my imperfect corners, so I'm going to split the difference and aim right between. Now this corner, I'm going to have to be rolling that up as I go. And again, I'll pick up that corner and aim right from my finger without stretching across the bias. And then right through the small one, making sure that I don't hook up onto the black. Really slow at the end there, and even just using the hand wheel to sink my needle down where I want it to end, and tiny back tack. Okay, I'm going to keep going in this direction and do all of the squares in this direction. Probably at the halfway point I'll turn the quilt around and come in from the other side, otherwise I'll have just too much quilt in here. All right, so all the lines this way are done, and now I'm gonna do the lines this way. Shoot. Yikes. See that? I went onto the black at both ends, and I don't like that at all, so I'm gonna pull that out. Yuck. Now, coming across the second way, you might find this can happen, right? Where the fabric gets pushed on top of your first line. So you kind of have to like work it in like that. And still keeping in mind that I'm aiming for that corner. But I'm smoothing out the fabric this way so it doesn't just get collected that way. Okay, the quilting is done in both directions. I always have to check it over because sometimes it's easy to miss a whole line, but I think I got them all. And now I just need to cut all these little threads on the front and back and take out my safety pins, and then I'm done. So there it is, it's all finished. I think it's pretty gorgeous. And I know it's not traditional baby, but I hope she's gonna love it. I personally love it, and I hope you enjoyed watching me make that in the 2 videos. And if you make one, please let me know in the comments. I'll be super excited if anybody makes one like this. Let me know how it goes. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. That just makes my day. Alright, till next time, take care.